Hi there and welcome to another weekly update. I'm going to try and keep this one quite short. They've been getting kind of longer and longer. There's always stuff to talk about and I tend to ramble on, so I'm going to try and keep this one crisp. So the first thing I want to talk about is a blog post I put out actually the week before last, but we didn't cover it last week because we did an interview call with Matt Landis, which if you haven't listened to, you definitely go and listen to. It's a great catch up from Microsoft Ignite and what that means for developers. Anyway, this news kind of came out around about the same time, and if you write bots in Bot Framework, you may know you can currently use the Skype for Business channel, and that's always only worked for Skype for Business online. It's never worked for on-premise bots, on-premise environments. So you've not been able to take your Bot Framework bots and make them work in Skype for Business on-premise. You now can do that. So there's been an update to the Skype for Business server to support this. It's in Skype for Business, the recent cumulative update 5, which was released earlier this year. And the reason it needs a CU is there's a special PowerShell command that you need to run. So the process is you write your bot in Bot Framework, you add it to the Skype for Business channel, you do all the same instructions that you would for Skype for Business Online, which is to run the new CS Online Application Endpoint PowerShell commandlet. And then you additionally, so you do all that on your online environment, and then you additionally run new CS Hybrid Application Endpoint on-premise. So this only really works in hybrid environments. You can't do it if you're entirely on-premise. The bot still lives in Skype for Business Online, if you like. What you're doing by running the on-premise commandlet is you're just sort of linking them together. You're linking together an endpoint on your premises with the online instance. So there's details in the blog post for doing that, and it's really good actually. It's really good to see because post Ignite. We've not really been sure what the landscape looks like and where it's been going. So it's good to see that definitely forward momentum and progress is being made both in the online space and in the on-premise space, and there's still effort to bring those kind of work, make those worlds work together well for people and for consumers and for people building bots. So that's all good news. It's good because it reinforces Bot Framework as the place to go and build your bots, because they'll then work anywhere, and that anywhere now includes Skype for Business on-prem. So that's all good news. All right, so next thing I want to talk about is a blog post that the Bot Framework team put out, and it's about web chat, and it's about customizing web chat for your website. Now, when you build a bot in Bot Framework, you get a number of channels kind of for free. They're added by default when you create a bot, and one of those is web chat. And what web chat is essentially is an embed command. It's a iframe. So you take this iframe and you put it into your website, and now you have the chat box, the blue and white chat box for Bot Framework on your website, and that's brilliant and it's cool and it's very easy to use. And that's all cool. Now, what the blog post talks about is there's a couple of different ways to actually style that you may not have thought about and you may not have considered, and that's kind of cool because as the box, it's kind of blue and white and doesn't necessarily gel well with the rest of the look and feel of your website. So they go into some detail for how exactly to style it. And actually, it's interesting. There's a couple of different ways they do it. They do custom styling with CSS, but then actually they jump quite quickly to using direct line, which I hadn't really thought about. Doing, but actually it makes a lot of sense. So they go into some detail about doing that and about taking direct line and then styling that. They do it for various different. They go through. There's loads of code samples as well for doing it various different ways. You can do it with Node as well. It's all open source. There's links to GitHub as well. So if you are already embedding stuff, bot framework stuff in your website, but you're not happy with how the look and feel, then take a look at this. It may help. And if you hadn't even thought about styling, then give it a read, because it doesn't have to just look exactly as it comes out the box in the kind of blue and white of Bot Framework. Although I quite like that, actually. I think it's quite a nice style. But I get, if I was putting it into a website, it wouldn't necessarily fit with everything else I'm trying to achieve on that website. So that was good. And then trying really hard to keep this quick. So I'm only going to talk about one more thing, and it's not really it's not really directly related to development in particular, but it is something that you should be aware of, especially if you work in a company that's affected by this, and that is support for Office 2007 is no longer there. So Office 2007, as the name implies, is super old. It's been supported for over 10 years, and there's definitely still people using it, and that's the problem, I guess. It's definitely still in use in some organisations, in some businesses, but Microsoft are no longer supporting it. So any issues that you have as a developer in doing anything with Office, in writing anything against Office, if you run into problems now, you are going to have issues. I think you're going to have problems if you try and log tickets, because it's no longer a supported product in any kind of way, shape or form. And that probably also means you're not going to get patches either. So that's a kind of security problem. So whatever it is that's kept you from upgrading your Office for the last 10 years, you should probably revisit, because if you're a developer, you're going to struggle with any hitting any bugs or any problems. You're going to struggle with tech support. And anyway, it sounds like there's good reason you should probably move on anyway. All right, so that's everything I wanted to talk about. Have a great week, or have a great weekend, and have a great week next week. Again, just a plug for last week's call with Matt Landis. If you haven't seen it, definitely go and listen to that now. But I will talk to you next week.